Weird science
is the revolution.
Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here. And as you can see from the title and the thumbnail, this is all about the rumor mill. This is all about the gossip. I'd like to think of myself as the sitcom neighbor who's always peeking out through the curtains to see if the next door neighbor's daughter is actually a robot. You know, stuff like that. Pretty cool. I love the gossip. I love the rumors, but I really want to make it clear that this is just rumors. I have 3 sources, as I'll tell you, but nobody was ever in the room during any negotiations. Nobody saw emails. These are just things that people had heard. We'll get to that in a second. But this whole idea of Marvel relaunching their line out of the ashes of Krakoa, they have the new line of books. They recently announced the creative teams on the first 3 books. And if you haven't heard of that, you can end up, I'll link the video that I did on the announcement at the end of this video, but I'll give you the quick writers because that's what we're talking about. You have the X-Men book by Jed MacKay, Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone, Exceptional X-Men by Eve Ewing. And when this was announced, a lot of people just kind of shrugged their shoulders. Gail Simone, it was already known. It was rumored for a while that she would be writing at least one of the books. Jed MacKay just came out, and then Eve Ewing. So you end up like, okay, there's the line. I didn't see a lot of hype for it. And obviously, Marvel wants a lot of hype. So obviously, these couldn't be the only people they got a hold of. And when I ended up getting this first list, and it's longer than just 10, it's a bunch of writers, that a guy I talked to, a credible source, had that list. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll make a video of this. Maybe we'll discuss. And I thought, I don't really want to just throw this out there like that. So I actually did send the list, the names, to a current Marvel writer and a current Marvel editor to go through and check off the ones that they had heard turned down the thing. So there are 3 sources, but nobody was in the room. Nobody was seeing emails. Like I said, it's still rumor. It's still fully rumor. I think that we can have fun with it, though, going through. And some of the people I talked to, they had, I heard it was for this reason. I heard that, some not, but we'll discuss that as well. But I think this could be a lot of fun talking about what could have been. Maybe some of these people on the list, you're like, oh my God, they would have been perfect for this book. Or, oh, I would have been more excited if that person was on this as we go. And also by the end, maybe we'll discuss a little of why these people, if it's true, why would they turn down something like the X-Men? I think that this is, again, it could be fun. And just as an aside, too, I think some of these names will make you happy that you end up having Jed MacKay, Gail Simone, and Eve Ewing writing the books instead of them. So this just isn't the, oh man, this creative teams on these books stink. I wish we had this, and here you go. Not all the names are going to get people that excited anyway. So as we go into this, we will start with one name that is the only name on this top 10 deal or 10 deal. I don't know if it's a top 10. It's verified, kind of 10. This one's verified, though, because he actually came out in an interview and said it. And it's Rick Remender, who actually is on record of saying that he was offered the X-Men writer job and also Batman, and he turned them both down, and people lost their minds. Oh, my God, why would he turn down Batman and X-Men? The thing was, he was talking more about the not owning the characters and being an established writer who has a fan base. There's no real reason to write characters you don't own, properties that aren't yours. So that's why he turned them down. And just as an aside, if you are reading his excellent Sacrificers book, one of my favorite indie books right now, you can thank me for the letters page because I did name that. I'm tooting my own horn here, actually. I really am. So every time you read the Sacrifices, like, that was a great issue. Remember, I helped you out there with that letter because the letters page name, I think, is just as important as writing and art, if you ask me, right? No, not really. But that's pretty much the only verified name. They had come out, Rick Remender had come out and said, I was offered that. Now we're going to get into the rumors. And again, before we go into this, I don't need anybody in the comments telling me, oh, how dare you do this nonsense with rumors and things. This is for fun. I did try to check it out. I'm no Kurt Loder here. I'm not even Kennedy, right? I'm just a goofy guy and I like gossip. So we're going to have fun with this. Just stop yelling at me, people. Number 2 on the list, and probably the same reason why Rick Remender would have turned it down, is Ed Brewbaker. They supposedly got a hold of Ed Brewbaker. He wrote, one of the big things, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, but also does a lot of his crime noir stuff that I think is excellent. Does it with Deshaun Phillips. They kind of reached out to him. I think some of these are going to be feelers like, hey, would you be interested? Not even getting down to the negotiations and nitty gritty. And he seemingly just said no, that he's not interested. So it didn't really go further than that. But again, would that have been cool? Would you like Ed Brewbaker? What book would he have been on? Kind of neat. The next one, number 3, is Geoff Johns. And that's a weird one because I think people have that gut reaction. Geoff Johns also with the movie stuff, also being more of a DC guy, but he's doing the Ghost Machine stuff. So I think that if they did reach out to him, he probably just said, listen, I can't. I mean, it's funny because he has that Ghost Machine and everybody in it has to be exclusive. It'd be funny if he's like, except me. I make the rules. I'm also doing X-Men. But I don't know. I think I would have been interested. But the problem with him as well, I think some people would probably bring it up, is I guess if you get him, say, on the X-Men or Uncanny X-Men, because I don't think any of these first bunch of writers are going to be hired to do the exceptional X-Men. We have a couple by the end that were probably the first choices for that one. But say you have Geoff Johns, he's on X-Men. I guess you'd be happy having 4 issues a year, right? I don't think that works. I don't think Geoff Johns even works in the whole play because he just can't keep a schedule. And when you're coming out with something like this, it's vital. So I don't know if that would have been the greatest choice anyway, but also he's doing Ghost Machine stuff. So we'll move on to the next name, number 4. This one's going to get people like scratching their head. And I think that the gut reaction might be like, oh no, for a lot of people, but I think it would have made a big scene. It would have made the news. It would have gotten people who aren't, quite the Marvel fans or X-Men fans might have checked things out. I don't know if it would have been good or bad by the end, but it's Tom King. Tom King was approaching. Tom King, what I heard was that he was interested, but he didn't have enough time to actually prep for it and write it. He's got too much going on right now. Some things that haven't been announced is what I've heard. And so he really didn't have the timetable. And when we go through these two, some of these names were almost like the idea, well, I don't want to get involved yet, but maybe down the line I might. I don't know if Tom King's one of those, but some of these you may end up seeing down the line. I think a lot of them were waiting to see the reaction and what the direction is before they wanted to commit. But Tom King, a big writer, brings a lot of his own fans into what he's writing. I'm sure that some people be like, oh, he'd kill everybody, but hey, maybe that's what you need. Maybe with all that Krakoa stuff, maybe you need to purge some things a little, right? Maybe really push the idea that resurrection's done, because I think that Tom King would really put that to the test, right? So that was another one. Actually seemed like the people told me was kind of interested, like to chat, but the timing wasn't right. The next one, we're going to go back to somebody who got a feeler thrown out and barely even responded, almost laughed. It's Grant Morrison. They got a hold of Grant Morrison to see if they'd want to write the deal, and kind of like, no. Like, it kind of was just like right away, no, and that was that. So that would be kind of a crazy move coming back to the X-Men stuff. Again, I think that a lot of people would have been excited about that, but that would have also made news. And I think that going back to what I said at the beginning, I think a lot of these names are names that you would have gotten more of a splash. I mean, when you go and say, like, Eve Ewing, not many people outside of Marvel Comics are going to know. Gail Simone, bigger name, but hasn't been doing a lot lately and has had a couple Marvel books that I swear nobody even knew that she was doing. And then Jed MacKay is a good writer. He's a solid writer. A lot of people love his Moon Knight stuff, but he's not a name that somebody who is on the fringes of comics or even out of it, like, they're not going to recognize the name and it's not going to be big news. So some of these names I've already said, they are a big splash names, right? So that's kind of the play too. But the next name is very interesting, this name in my mind, because when I saw Ryan Stegman's art on X-Men, when they announced that, I actually thought it was going to be Donnie Kates writing. Now, Donnie Kates has run into some personal problems, had some issues. And at the moment, it doesn't seem like Marvel is really into hiring him. It seems like there is a bit of a ban going on. And I tried to look into this a little more. And when he had his issues, he did end up he had got a lot of money from Marvel, and they're kind of mad about that, it seems. But it still seems like there has to be something else involved. And what I heard from one person was that they're afraid that Donnie Kates, it's like an insurance type deal, that they can't be sure that the same thing won't happen again. So they're very wary of doing something big like this with him and then having something go wrong and have problems. So with that, though, I've been told that Tom Brevoort actually tried to get that quote-unquote ban lifted. He wanted to have Donnie Kates, and I can only think that he'd be doing the X-Men book with Ryan Stegman. I think that's what I'm not the only one. I saw a lot of people who said, oh my God, I thought this was going to be Donnie Kates. And again, the bigger name, but also a big thing of him coming back to this, I think would have been a big story and pretty cool. Not everybody loves Donnie Kates. I know that. I do like him. I do like his writing, so I would have been excited about that. The next one, number 7, if we're playing at home, is Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron recently has come over to DC. His exclusivity ended at Marvel. He's checking out the other pastures. And while I didn't love the ending to his Action Comics Bizarro story, still liked it enough. But I really do like Batman Offworld. And in other rumor things that we could talk about maybe later in another video, he seems to be involved in what will end up being the DC Comics Ultimate Universe, writing Superman. So with all that, he's got other things involved, but it makes sense that Tom Brevoort, who's worked a lot with Jason Aaron, I actually got in fights with Tom Brevoort and Jason Aaron attacking me and my man Brandon way back in our our Marvel Comics podcast because we didn't like the Avengers. I mean, the way that Tom Brevoort was talking about Jason Aaron, he had love in his eyes when he was talking about that. So even if that would have been the second tier deal where, okay, well, I'm kind of out of options, I'm going to call my man Jason, hoping that he would just maybe get involved for a little whatnot. That didn't work. He is not interested. So that kind of fell through. So there you go with 7 people. And these are pretty big names, these 7. Now we're going to go into the next row of things. And I think that these next ones possibly may have been the idea of exceptional X-Men. Maybe you already got Gail Simone. And I think that any of these names going, I think would have worked with Gail Simone. Gail Simone seemed to be pretty early in the idea that she was involved. Then they have to fill out the deal. Who's going to write the X-Men? I think most of the others were maybe the X-Men person. Now we're going to get to what I think might have been the first choices for exceptional X-Men before Eve Ewing was, hired. And that starts with number 8, Kelly Sue DeConnick. And this is where we're going to get to a point where I think people are going to be like, really? Like, what? Well, what else do they have going on? Like, what are they doing instead of this? Like, you would think that they would jump on it. But I think that maybe, like I said, they're being kind of like, hey, you're going to be this third thing. And maybe it's the pitch of the book. Maybe they weren't, involved in picking a team. Whatever it would be, Kelly Sue DeConnick said no. So no Kelly Sue DeConnick. And this is where I started saying about people started weighing the options of are we better off or whatnot, because I know that a lot of people do not like Kelly Sue DeConnick. Number 9 is one that it's a writer I like, though I don't like everything she's written. But when I do like what she's like, it's very inconsistent for just personally for me. But it's GWill Wilson that they got in. Again, you can see, okay, GWill Wilson would probably have been on that exceptional X-Men. And maybe getting lightning in a bottle, maybe even going with stuff eventually with Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, getting back to that. I don't know, but she turned it down. I did talk to my man Ruben, who does our X-Men show, and I was telling him this list, and when he's a big fan of GWill Wilson, has actually met her, and ends up saying, like, I can't believe that. What else does she have going on? I'm like, she is doing Poison Ivy. She has a pretty decent indie book and stuff like that. But whatever the case may be, she turned it down. And then for the final deal, and I wanted to get through this pretty quick. The final deal, this actually made me laugh because just as an aside, when I first started reading the X-Men, I'm a fairly new X-Men reader. I had read some back issues, but my first run that I was getting each time it came out, like actual current run getting it, was the run right before the Krakoa stuff, and it was Matthew Rosenberg stuff. I didn't mind it. It wasn't great. It wasn't, the greatest thing ever, but I wasn't minding. But they actually got a hold of him, and I would love to think that he just told him to F off, because his stuff just got stopped right when Hickman's like, I think I want to do that X-Men stuff. And boom, he was done. So hopefully that's more of a pride thing that he ended up saying, if it's true, that he just said, oh, yeah, you want me to come? Oh, yeah, F you. I would like to think that, but there you go. And again, Matthew Rosenberg is in that teetering deal. I would still think that, they would want to get a huge name on the X-Men and maybe have Matthew Rosenberg do the exceptional X-Men, but maybe things would have changed. Maybe they had some ideas, like if this person wanted to do it, but we would have a different team or different. I don't know how it went down, and neither do any of the people I talked to. As I said, this is just a rumor deal. But again, I said at the beginning of why would people turn it down? Now, we had some, actual maybe legit things. Yeah, busy. Hey, I don't want to do the prep deal. I have better things like a Rick Remender. It's going to be a step back, whatever. But it might be the idea that the line's tainted, that they see what's happened and see the reactions. And it's like, it's kind of a hot deal. Like, you don't want to get involved right now. Maybe you want to wait it out a bit. And I was told that some of these writers, like, even gave maybe call me back later, call me maybe, as they sing. But also the idea that, once it gets established, if they like the whole way it's going and a book pops up, maybe that's the thing too. All of a sudden you have, say, Jason Aaron who wants to write X-Force, and they get, okay, I'll do that. Or, oh man, this line's doing well, I'll do that. We'll see. We'll see if any of these come up, because there's been some names, bandied about. Maybe we'll have a video on that, the idea of who we do want them to reach out and what books and what would be kind of cool. Because I've seen, when I did my whole video of the announcement, a lot of people like, oh man, why wasn't it Phil Kennedy Johnson? Why didn't they get a hold of this person, that person? And so it'll be kind of cool maybe thinking about that as well, because I would have gotten a hold of Phil Kennedy Johnson, and personally, just to give a kickoff of what that video could be, I think he'd be good on X-Force. But that's just me. That's just me here. But I'd love to hear what everybody thinks about it. Even if you think like, oh, I don't believe any of it, that's fine. Because again, I can't say that I got, an email that I read from each of these turning it down or whatnot. This is just rumors. This is the whole play here. But let me know if some of these would have been cool, or some of these would have been the worst thing ever. And you're glad that you get Jed McKay, Gail Simone, and Eve Ewing, all of that all rolled up into one. Let me know if you kind of like the rumor mill videos. I try to stay away from. I do hear a lot of rumors. But I feel weird doing it, but I thought this could be fun, is why I did. And hopefully you realize this wasn't a hate-filled rant video of, this and that and the other thing. I like to have fun with these sort of things. So let me know what you think. And with all of that, thanks everybody. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I always forget to say that. They say things like smash that button and things like that. I don't know what that means, but if you want to, just smash it all. Just keep on the smashing. It's like whack-a-mole you can do. But that's it. Thanks, everybody. Let me know what you think of the comments, and I'll talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.